The end.
Hello, and welcome to the Common Geeking Program. We are a book club style podcast where each episode we discuss a different topic from our own geeky and nerdy perspectives. I am your host, Jeff Leavitt, and this week we're doing something a little bit different. We've talked about this. I think we mentioned it in last episode, but what we're doing this time is Colin is here with us. And I'm usually I'd have everyone introduce themselves, but it's me, Colin, and Jocelyn. It was going to be Chowdhury, but he's maybe stuck at work or something. We're not sure. Maybe he'll jump in the middle. We'll see how it goes.
Editor's note. Due to a misunderstanding about scheduling, I will not be in this episode, but I have been making running commentary throughout.
Colin is going to fucking try to explain the plot to Tenet to us. Jocelyn and I have not seen this movie, and being a Christopher Nolan movie, it is apparently quite the wild ride. So this is going to be a bit of a test run for these sort of episodes where we're just kind of ranting and explaining something that is real wet and wild to the other two people. So we'll see how this goes.
Hi, I'm Colin, and I have seen Tenet twice now. So, Tenet is the newest movie from Christopher Nolan, and there's been a lot of mystery and secrecy around it, even though it's been out for a while, but it just hit home release. And I showed it to my girlfriend yesterday, and even just, the reactions are as wild as the movie. So I'm going to say this now. Anyone listening to this episode, if you have not seen Tenet, and you want to see Tenet,
we're going to spoil the motherfucker out of this thing.
I am going to destroy the element of surprise this movie has. Now, that said, even if I destroy the element of surprise, and whether or not I think it's a great movie, you should see it. It is bracing. It is more tense and visceral than anything Christopher Nolan has done. See Inception, The Dark Knight, Interstellar, Dunkirk.
Memento.
Memento.
That's the big one.
I have not seen Memento, or have I? I made that joke off mic, but I'm making it again for the audience.
Maybe you just saw it backwards, and you just thought, wow, that was a really bad movie with just kind of a simple-ass plot when you watch the scenes in order.
Oh, man.
And Jocelyn, what's your fucking goddamn Tenet experience so far?
My experience with Tenet is hearing everyone...
Tenet.
Tenet.
What is this, the 10th Doctor? Get that second N out of there.
He should have been in it. That would have been great. I would have probably gone and seen it.
It's going to be the parody version of Tenet is Tenant.
My relationship with this movie is everyone going crazy about the fact that you can't hear any dialogue in theaters because of the way Nolan mixes things.
So
great.
I remember reading that the people had the same problem with Interstellar, and so like with my new speakers, I just watched Interstellar, and I'm like, I don't know what people are complaining about. I will say, so just to prime people before we get into spoiler territory, if you're going to listen to this episode, if you can, go watch Tenet. Keep in mind 3 things. 1, it is Chris Nolan's take on a spy movie.
Interesting.
That's just, so that is his sort of table setting. He wanted to look at like classic spy movies and amp them up in the way that Inception took classic heist movies and really sort of fucked with the formula with the dreamscape and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Where he takes a classic idea and injects it with like a mechanic. And Tenet has a mechanic, believe you me. Second thing, the sound is definitely not gonna please everyone. I walked into the theater expecting to hate the sound. I walked out of the theater.
Big. Chowder just got online on Discord.
Oh, does he want to join?
We'll see.
Anyway, so the sound thing, I will say in defense of the movie, I expected to hate it. I walked out of the movie understanding most of it. Like, I feel like there were times I was struggling to hear the dialogue, but it was mixed very realistically. Like, you can't hear people when they're on a giant boat or talking through a mask or firing guns. Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
And I hate it.
But I know that that's not always going to be great. If you're watching this at home, it's honestly worse than in the theater. So if you watch it with subtitles. And third, try to keep an open mind. The movie can drag in the middle, but not in what I think is necessarily a bad way.
Editor's note, much like this episode.
I guess I'll get into it, but don't write it off at any point before the end. Complete the movie and then start to try to form your opinions. And that's not me trying to say like, oh no, it's actually a really good movie. I think it is worth seeing until the end because it is a unique experience, for sure. That's my Primer info. Not about the movie Primer, which is its own mess.
That's so much.
Chowder says, I thought y'all said tomorrow.
Chowd Snow.
We're probably going to cut this out, but I'm just trying to figure this out. He said, he's quoting something that you said. Heads up, the puzzle of this movie is one of the most interesting things about watching it, and I'm going to destroy that for you tomorrow. Didn't you write that yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 10:02 p.m. yesterday.
Chowder!
He probably read it this morning and didn't realize when I sent it.
Yeah, because that was late last night.
That is
Well, not late, but
probably,
like...
yeah.
Editor's note, that's pretty much what happened.
Do you want me to restate my primers in like a shorter fashion, something that's a little less wordy? Because I was riffing, so... you guys buckled up and ready to hear me rant for what I'm going to try to keep down to 30 minutes?
Editor's note, that is a goddamn lie.
I mean, no, but yes.
Yeah.
I'm
I think
fucking as ready as I'll ever be. I didn't even know those basic things about it, so that's, the fucking level of knowledge that I'm coming in here with.
Well, you're about to walk out more confused than you walked in, so let's dive in. So
you say that like we're fucking in a theater doing this.
Yeah, so seeing this in the theater was like one of the most visceral movie-going experiences I've ever had. I was actually white-knuckling.
Okay.
Again, coming back to his sound mix, like when you clench something with your hand so hard that your knuckles turn white. Do it right now. Clench your fists.
Yeah.
You see how the blood comes out of your knuckles?
Those kind of movies.
My hands are always that color.
So, Tenet.
Oh, you mean like on my palms it gets white?
Editor's note, to be fair to Jeff, I just tried to do that with my fist, and my knuckles did not turn white either. But then again, I have more melanin than all three of these people combined.
I'm not going to go into the biology of this. Let's keep moving. So
no, like you mean my knuckles, or like I'm clenching my knuckles?
It's a phrase. It's like, white knuckling is a phrase.
No, I understand. I understand that. I'm saying that.
Jeff,
my
I have
knuckles,
so much I have to get through. I'm not talking about your knuckles.
Changing color. My palms are.
Okay, see a doctor. Tenet is a movie. So the movie opens on an opera house in Kiev, and there's a bunch of secret agents, and someone in Ukrainian says, wake the Americans. A bunch of guys in black suits throw fake Ukrainian patches on their arms and join a raid. The place is locked down. People go in guns blazing. They pump gas in to knock out the audience. We focus on John David Washington, who is our protagonist.
Wait, they pump gas into the audience?
They pump gas to knock out the entire audience in the opera house. They all pass out.
Oh, the opera house. I missed that. I thought you meant the audience.
One by one, they inflate the audience.
Oh, God.
It's like, that kind of visceral experience. We're fucking going into a 4D movie where Christopher Nolan is passing out the actual human audience. When does this take place?
This modern day,
Okay.
maybe near future, but it has very Dark Knight Rises intro vibes, that kind of tense, like you're going straight into the middle of a heist thing.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, it turns out John David Washington's protagonist, he is trying to rescue someone, whereas the Ukrainians are trying to kill someone. So he gets the guy out, and then someone realizes his patch is fake, and he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And you see a bullet hole in the concrete that rewinds and is now solid concrete, killing the man that was attacking him. So he escapes with a piece of gear that people were hunting, but gets captured by the Ukrainians. They torture him until he takes a suicide pill.
Wait. It rewinds.
The bullet hole moves. Everything is moving forward, but the bullet hole moves backwards and almost reforms.
And is that
So there
actually
was a bullet
happening,
hole.
or is that
Yes.
like a fucking...
That's what happens, and that's what he sees. He's like, what the hell is that?
Oh,
He goes and
okay.
gets the MacGuffin he was sent to get. He gets out, but the Ukrainians capture him. They torture him, and then he takes a suicide pill, and then the word Tenet pops up on screen. That's the cold open.
Does he
And it's-
rewind the suicide pill?
No, he does not. He doesn't rewind anything. Because he wakes up on a boat and he's like, hey, I fucking thought that I died. He's a CIA agent, it turns out. And that suicide pill was not a suicide pill. It was a test. And he passed. Because it's like, do you have the balls to sacrifice yourself? Because we have a bigger mission for you. There's an organization called Tenet. And he used the word Tenet. It will open some doors, good and bad. He makes a weird interlocking finger gesture with his hand and says, we need you to go get debriefed and figure out this thing. And the intrigue begins.
Okay.
After a montage, he meets up with a doctor. And this doctor lady, she's like, hey, what's up? He's like, Tenet. And she's like, you're cool, and lets him in. So there's the rock wall full of bullet holes. And she says, here, take this gun. And he's like, okay, it's empty. And then he pulls the trigger, and a bullet comes out of the rock and reverses into the gun. And he opens it,
I'm
checks
starting
the mag,
to remember seeing trailers for this. Okay.
and there is a bullet in the magazine. And here's where she explains that essentially they're trying to stop what they think is going to be World War III, where people in the future have discovered how to invert the entropy of objects, people, and matter so that they're still moving at the same speed, but they're moving backwards in time. They demonstrate this by him, like, dropping the bullet. He drops the bullet, but instead it goes up into his hand.
What?
He
Wait,
still
but I
cuts-
thought the bullet was already
Yes.
in his hand.
It visually, trust me, it works. We gotta keep moving. Because they, from a technical standpoint, there were scenes that they shot 4 times. Once where they shoot it forward, once where they shoot it forward, but the film is in reverse. Once where they shoot the choreography backwards, and once where they shoot the choreography backwards in reverse. And the editor had to, like, sift through all 4 versions of
I
things.
would love to have been on that editing staff.
Oh, Christ.
If nothing else, this is the most ambitious movie I've seen in my goddamn life. So he's exposed to the idea that stuff can move backwards, and people from the future are trying to wage war by sending things backward in time for the present to use. And he is sent on a mission essentially to find the arms dealer that is inverting these bullets and sending them back in time. So he's like, all right. And thus the spy movie begins.
Wait.
Wait.
Wait. Someone's inverting the bullets? Like,
Yes,
you
so-
you like sprinkle some special powder onto the bullet and boom, this is a backwards bullet now?
More or less, yeah. It's not powder, it's radiation, but yes. And they need plutonium to do it.
Wait, but how
course
do they
it's
fucking... How did they transport these bullets from place to place? Wouldn't they just go to their last known location?
No, there's no portal or anything. The only mechanism here is inversion. So if I took a bullet and put it on the table, it will sit on that table until someone does something to it. And once you invert it, it's still on the table. It's just now going the other direction. There's no teleportation. There's nothing like that. It is
But
just
you can't
time
take.
reverting.
But how do you take the bullet and put it on the table if it's only inverted? Like, why is it inverted sometimes but not inverted other times?
It's inverted 100% of the time. And to quote the movie, don't try to understand it, just feel it.
Okay, fine.
So,
all right.
so there was a lot of watching the behind the scenes was a blast because everyone is like, yeah, I read the script and it made no fucking sense and we had no idea what we were going to do.
Editor's note. Like I said, sounds like somebody fucked up.
Let me tell you, this is my first time explaining this stuff to someone who hasn't seen it. And yeah, out loud it sounds insane. On screen, it is nutty to watch. It looks wild. So he goes to Mumbai. He meets up with a random local agent there named Neil, played by Robert Pattinson. So the protagonist and Neil, they try to...
Who is our protagonist?
John David Washington. He's the protagonist. So they go...
Wait, is John David Washington the actor or
yes,
the character?
John David Washington is the actor.
Is protagonist.
He is the protagonist. So they're like, hey, we got to get to this arms dealer, and there's a local arms dealer here in India. They get up there, they think it's a dude, but it's actually his wife, and she's pulling all the strings, and she says, hey, this dude named Andrei Sator, he's a Russian oligarch, and he is the one dealing in inverted bullets. And he's like, okay, gotta go find him. How do we find him? And she says, his wife. He has a lunch with...
And they go there, and they go there, and they're like, we're arresting you. And he's like, you can't arrest me. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's the kind of intrigue we're dealing with. He goes to meet with Michael Caine because it's a Chris Nolan movie, and they have a fun little lunch.
Naturally.
Where Michael Caine dumps all over his suit. And it says like, "Hey, you don't look like a billionaire in that suit. Go fucking buy something fancy, you cheap piece of shit."
Okay. That kind of dumps.
It's a very zhuzhy lunch.
Where Michael Caine just takes a full-on shit all over our protagonist.
Or could you sit right under me? It's hard to aim.
And then he's like, "What the fuck, man?" And then he looks down at his suit, and Michael Caine hasn't done it yet, so he doesn't.
So Michael Caine explains two things. One, Sator grew up in like a secret city in the Soviet Union, like these cities where they were like blocked off to sort of shroud military projects. And then he also reveals that Sator's wife sold him a piece of art for millions of dollars, and it was a fake. And he's like, did she do that on purpose? And Michael Caine's like, I don't know. So he goes to investigate, and he meets the wife, and she's like, I didn't know it was a fake. And her name is Kat. She's extremely tall. She's like 6'3", and John David Washington is like 5'10". It's really great to watch them opposite each other. But he asked Kat, like, did you know it was a fake? She's like, nope, but my husband is so crazy, he thinks I was trying to rob from him, and now he blackmails me with selling a fake thing so that I have to stay with him. And if I try to leave him, I'll never get to see my son again. Sorry. So I'm trapped. And he's like, oh, that sucks. Let me try to help you out. Now, she's like, well, you can't get the painting because that's the only way you're going to free me, or the drawing. It's in this Freeport, which is like this network of tax havens and airports and places around the world where the security is super high and no one really knows they're there. So she's like, if you can get it out of there. And he's like, don't worry, I'm friends with Robert Pattinson.
The actor.
I mean, valid.
Neil and the protagonist plan to bust it out. And it's like, this sets up the first huge action set piece where they go to the airport in Oslo and they go to the Freeport. And Robert Pattinson, learns about the place. If there's a fire that's set, then all the rooms lock down and fill with halide gas, and you have to like get out. So they practice holding their breaths and picking locks and things like that. And then the protagonist says, how are we gonna trigger the alarms and everything? It's an airport. And he's like, and Robert Pattinson's like,
we already did
what
it.
If we just no, Robert Pattinson's like, what if we crash a plane in an airport? And then Christopher Nolan, the director, was like, what if we actually crashed a real plane into a real airport? And
Chris, why did you do that? That's not what? How did they what?
So they bought a 747 and actually ran it into a building on the premises of a real airport. Everything you see is real, and it's mind-blowingly intense.
That can't have been the best way to do that.
But why?
That sets off the alarm. They go around, they look for the painting. They don't find it, and then they walk into this room where it's split down the middle by a wall with glass, and they can see each other on the other side, one on one side, one on the other. And at the end, there are these cylinders. The cylinders suddenly close and open, and on one side with Robert Pattinson, a man in a black set of gear jumps out and starts attacking him. on the protagonist side, a same exact looking kind of guy jumps out in reverse.
Oh.
And they have a fight scene where one person is moving forward in time and the other is moving backwards.
How
fighting.
the shit does that work?
That's
Great
when
stunt
you're watching it,
coordinating.
that's the question you're asking. Incredible stunt
Wait.
coordination. I thought
Hold
that
the
they
fuck up. Wait. Next question. Big question.
Yes.
When they expose this whatever, like the bullet to radiation to make it an inverted bullet, is that a permanent procedure?
We'll get to that.
Because if that's the case, did they just fucking straight up Benjamin Button this guy?
The Curious Case of John David Washington.
Do you think that this movie is in the Benjamin Button verse? Because that was the first thing I thought.
No. So it is a mind-blowing sequence to watch the first time. All you can do is scratch your head about what is happening and how did they make it work. And this is what I'm talking about when I say they shot it 4 ways. They actually rehearsed the scene forwards and backwards. And it's so strange to watch. It is, I can't describe the dissonance you feel when you're watching this fight scene. And Robert Pattinson fighting the forwards one lets him get away, and then John David Washington fighting the backwards one, that dude gets like sucked out, and we see the jet plane turbine explode. So
wait, sorry, that was our boy. Not that wasn't that the backwards.
That was the backwards guy that got sucked out. Protagonist and Neil are safe.
Wait, does that mean that he was there before?
The army, the John David Washington, or the guys in the
guy who went backwards
in the gear?
The guy who is fighting, who's fighting John David Washington.
Well, we'll get to that because
right?
in the next scene, John David Washington returns to Priya, who is that the arms dealer from India. And he's like, hey, this thing opened up and 2 people jumped out. And she's like, did they come out at the same time? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, they're the same person. Because if you think about it, if you walk in going backwards in time and come out going forwards in time, well, you're essentially just bouncing back from that one point in time. So to us, it looks like both people are emerging from this, what she calls a turnstile. This is the inversion technology. Where you go into the turnstile, it inverts you, and then you come out. So it's essentially...
So is he dead or not?
We don't know. So we keep going forward, and...
So wait. Are they're essentially splitting this guy?
They're not splitting him, but if you think of it just in terms of straight-up time travel, it's like there's 2 of him in the same place at the same time. The trick here is that one is running in reverse. Honestly, the context that helped me a lot was River Song and Doctor Who and how she kept appearing at different points in time. Like, she's experiencing time in her own progression, and the Doctor is experiencing it in another.
Yeah.
Kind of. The movie is a 2.5-hour exercise in getting you to jive with this mentality, this asynchronous way of being. And...
Yeah, but that doesn't... If the fucking dude is going backwards, and then at the end of this backwards exchange, he gets sucked into a fucking turbine or whatever the hell.
We saw the turbine explode.
That means that linearly for him, he started out there. That doesn't make any goddamn
sense. We'll get back to that. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Now... they make off, and protagonist goes back to Kat and says, hey, I got your drawing. Introduce me to your husband. And then she does, and she introduces it to him. It's Kenneth Branagh. He's playing Andre Sator, and that's fun. And he's like, did you fuck my wife yet? And he's like, not yet. And you're like, damn, JD! And he's about to kill him. And then the protagonist says... okay, well, can you tell me about, he says, do you like opera? Hinting at the operation at the opera house in the opening of the film. And then suddenly Sator is like, all right, meet us tomorrow morning. And then the next day, here, Kat thinks she's, free and clear, but then Sator is like, actually, I still have the painting, so I still own you. And then she goes back to the protagonist, and he's like, yeah, I had to lie because he's more important than you are. And then that sucks. And essentially, there's a lot of scenes, but we just get into a point where Sator is sort of explaining his influence, that he needs things done, and that he's getting orders from the future. I don't think he says that explicitly, but we see a scene of him as a kid in the Soviet Union digging through rubble to gather plutonium, and there is like a capsule, and he opens it, and in it is like paperwork and gold bars. And
what the fuck?
So that's kind of all we get about him in this instance before. And here Kat is like talking about how a couple weeks ago they were on vacation when he threatened to take their kid away. And she's like, I'm in hell, and I saw some other lady sneak off the boat. And it's just like, I envied her freedom. I want to betray this asshole, and I can't do anything about it, and you're not helping. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've lost
same.
me in like 3 different
I'm
ways. but keep
I'm
going.
trying so hard.
Editor's note.
I don't even know who the fuck
Kat's
is
the
Kat
lady who's
again?
being blackmailed. She's Sator's wife, being blackmailed for selling him a
Okay.
fake painting for millions and millions of dollars. And he's just like,
And do we know yet what she's being?
It's just that
what the
well, this is
blackmail
right.
is?
This is the point in the movie where he says, if I can't have you, no one can. Like, he is a gross, evil dude abusing her. And the only reason she's alive is because
This is Sator.
this is Sator, yeah. And she's like, if you hurt,
What a fucking name.
he's
first
like,
of all.
Kat says, if you hurt me, the protagonist is not going to help you out, because like now he's trying to help out Sator. So Sator,
And then Sator is like, he already did.
so Sator
See how many fucking
basically
times I can make that joke.
Sator commissions the protagonist to steal
True.
Sator commissions the protagonist to steal plutonium. So they set up this heist. Once again, Arpats gets involved. Neil and the protagonist set up this heist where it's an armored car on the freeway. They actually shut down a freeway and did this, of course. And
Classic.
they block it in with like 3 semi-trucks and a fire truck. And so using the fire truck on the top, he uses the ladder to get into the armored car, take the plutonium. He opens it, and it's not plutonium. It's the same MacGuffin that he saw in the beginning of the movie at the Opera House, or similar. I think it's similar. I don't think it's the same. And then they're like, what the fuck is this? And Neil's like, don't worry. That's why we're here. He's like, but it's not plutonium. And then ahead of them, they see a car driving backwards. And you get into a pretty ridiculous car chase. And I think in real life what they did was they flipped the transmission on the car so they could accelerate backwards at full speed.
I was wondering.
Yeah, so, and again, they've shot this forwards and backwards. And you...
But shouldn't, like,
Well, blah, 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 blah.
the wind be going the other way or some shit like
You'd
that?
think so. Again, we'll get back to that. And essentially, like, they're stealing the thing, and they look over, and they see Sator in a gas mask with a gun to Kat, counting down, demanding the thing. And then another back...
Wait, is he count? Wait, sorry. Is he counting up or down?
To us, it looks like he's counting down 3, 2, 1 with his fingers.
Okay.
And then another inverted car pulls up, and he throws the suitcase with the thing in it. It bounces off the hood of the middle car and into Sator's car. And I was like, that's a weird stunt. Turns out they actually did drive 3 cars next to each other and bounce stuff off the hood and catch it. That's just a thing they did for fun, I guess.
Jesus fuck.
And we don't see who's driving that car. And then Sator, like, gets out of the minivan thing, SUV, that's going backwards, and Kat is still in it. And that thing is...
Wait.
That thing is...
So there's no... there's 2 Sators and 2 cats right here, right?
Right now on the screen, there is
telling
1
me.
Sator, 1 Cat. Sator has a gas mask on, Cat does not. But Sator gets a...
Wait, I thought he was pointing a gun to her head in the street.
in the car. That's happening in the chase.
Okay. Sorry.
So, oh my God, I'm getting a headache just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because
Also, what is the actor who plays Sator? Because right now, I don't know the actor's
Kenneth
name.
Branagh,
but
he's in, he's famous for Shakespeare. He was in Harry Potter. He was in Dunkirk.
Who did he play in
Kenneth
Harry
Branagh?
Potter?
I don't know, one of the teachers that's like really bright and happy and annoying.
Wow, that is not how I was
Wait,
imagining
hold
him at
on.
all. I was imagining him as I don't even know the actor's name. I think he might have died a few years ago though.
Oh, he's Gilderoy
it's
Lockhart?
Yeah, Gilderoy Lockhart. He was
What?
That is
Yeah, he's playing an evil
not
Russian
the
oligarch
energy.
in this movie, and he is so fucking intimidating. He's so
That's not
good.
who
See, I was
picture at
imagining
all.
this motherfucker as more of a I'll get back to you,
Yeah.
or I will have already said it because I'm gonna have to look up this actor's name.
So essentially, the chase resolves, and like Neil is like, "Why did you give him the thing? It's bad. You can't do that. It's very bad." And the protagonist is like, "You know too much about this." And then they follow him into this like warehouse.
Okay.
Now, in the warehouse, we see Sator and Kat. Kat pulls out a gun on him, and he's like, "You don't have the balls!" And he like takes the gun out of his hand and like screams at her, and the music gets really abrasive. And then they walk into the next room. Now, I don't know how I've been explaining it up till now, and I don't know even more how I'm about to explain this next scene.
Great.
Isn't it kind of the same?
So we see.
By the way,
we see
the actor I was imagining this character as is Michael Clark Duncan. I was imagining him looking.
Wait.
the guy from the Daredevil movie and Snow Dogs.
I don't know if that's what he was most famous for.
Green
But-
Mile,
Wait.
everything.
Wait, the guy from
I
Armageddon?
have not.
Yeah.
He's fucking.
That's
he's
how
been
you've
in a
been
number of
picturing?
things.
That's who you've
No,
been picturing?
Sator is like short, casually dressed Russian billionaire.
I was thinking like not quite what's his name?
What has he been
Andy
in that I
Serkis,
know?
but like that vein.
It's like a pudgy Andy
Interesting.
Serkis, yeah. Except he's a lot more reserved than a circus performance. I think it's very again. He's a Shakespearean actor, so he's got like that good British training, and he's really good at dialing it back. But when he screams at Kat in this warehouse, it is like animalistic and terrifying. And they move into the next room, and when the protagonist and Neil catch up, it's another room with a turnstile, but the turnstiles are bigger. They're on the right side, which is red, moving forward in time. And on the other side of the room, it is blue. Now, the protagonist is like, the protagonist is captured and put in a chair. And on the other side of the room, Kat is moving forward, but Sator is moving backwards. And you can see a bullet hole in the glass already. And
Oh fuck!
and essentially, like, through a walkie-talkie, Sator is speaking in reverse, and it's coming through the walkie-talkie and forward speaking. He's interrogating the protagonist about where it is and where it's going. He shoots what's-her-face, Kat, but the bullet goes back into the gun and rips through her, and she gets hit with, like, a heavily irradiated bunch of bullet that just tears through her and leaves nothing behind except radiation. So she's in bad shape. And when all all is said and done, like he moves backward into the turn.
If the bullet goes through her backwards, shouldn't it heal her?
Well,
Or it's because
she's
going
moving
forwards?
forward and the bullet's moving backwards, so these
Uh-huh.
opposite things interact, and it basically shreds her. And so she's sitting there like bleeding out and stuff like that. And Sator turns on, like puts his gas mask down, and he goes back into the turnstile.
Editor's note. Hold the fuck up a second. Are these literal turnstiles that cause the inverse thing?
I'm going to mess up some details here because I don't recall exactly what happened. But the Sator that's moving backwards in time, he leaves the room. And hold on. Yes, backwards Sator leaves the blue side of the room. And then suddenly Neil comes in with like this force of army guys. All these guys in like gear. Aaron Taylor Johnson with a huge beard. And all these people come running in. And then I think what happens is we cut over to Sator's perspective, him moving backwards, and we go through the interrogation again from the blue side of the room, and we hear it from his perspective. And the interrogation makes sense in the forward timeline and the backward timeline. It's so weird. But he gets...
What?
Yeah, like the questions he asks the protagonist, when we watch them forward in time, you're like, oh, he's being interrogated. But when we watch it backwards, the sequence of questions and answers is obviously reversed.
No.
And it still makes sense.
The actual fuck up. No. Hold up. No, wait a minute. You mean the order of the words are screwed up, or the words are being said backwards and make different sentences?
No, the sentences are the same. It's just that the sequences of the sentences are reversed.
How is that how it works? What?
No, because again, hold on, Jeff. There's a walkie-talkie translating between forward and backward. So they are communicating,
oh my fuck.
But they are each experiencing that communication in a different sequence. And it means something different to backward Sator, and he runs out of the fucking room. We cut back to the red forward side, and then suddenly the army's like, hey, what is it? Protagonist is like, we have to go invert and help her, like get her moving back in time so she can heal. And they're like, that's a bad idea because a few minutes ago, Sator was in charge of this place, so we don't want to go back in time because he'll own us. So
it's just like you have to go shoot the fucking backwards bullet forward, don't you?
Yeah, so what they do is they go through the turnstile, they invert, and they're like, okay, we got to get out of here before/after Sator runs this place. So now the protagonist is moving backwards in time. And it's just like, okay, it's going to take Kat a week to heal. It's going to take you have to be careful out there because you can't breathe regular air when you're inverted. Fire makes you cold because the thermal reaction is inverted. You can't touch yourself because there will be there will be like an annihilation if the same matter inverted touches itself, like matter antimatter. But essentially the gambit...
You fucking always are touching yourself. What the fuck?
No, I mean, like, if you encounter an inverted version of yourself, you cannot touch. You have to wear protective gear.
Okay, I thought you meant you couldn't, like, fucking, like, put your hand on your chest. I was like, dog?
Yeah, so...
your toes are touching all the time.
So the gambit here is there are two things that the protagonist is trying to do. He wants to track the MacGuffin, going backwards in time, to track backwards Sator. So he's going to put a tracker in the case to follow him backwards in time. But also, they need a way to get themselves moving forward in time again. And Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is like, where are you going to invert? And they're like, the free port at Oslo a week ago. So that's the plan.
Shut up.
That's the plan.
Shut up.
So we go backwards through the entire chase scene. That third car was John David Washington the whole time. When he threw the suitcase over the car, he threw the suitcase over the car, but threw the MacGuffin into the car. But then the car flips. We saw it flipped earlier and it reverse flipped. This time we see it forward flip. And then Sator blows the car up. But again, thermal reaction is inverted, so he almost freezes to death.
I am so happy that the character's name is Sator. Otherwise, I would not be following any of this.
I'm trying really hard to keep the characters' names in there. Honestly, it's hard. It can be hard to follow. But this is that middle point where I think until we hit this red-blue turnstile inversion, the mechanics are all still kind of mucky. And as a viewer, I'm like, I don't get it. My girlfriend, at this point in the movie, she was like, this movie's terrible. I hope you know that.
Okay. My next philosophical question is: when you are inverted, are you thinking forward?
Yes, your subjective
and
experience is moving forward, but everything else reacts backward. They talk about how cars will feel weird because to you, you're moving it forward, but all the shear and the wind resistance is going to be backwards. We see him step in a puddle and the water like meets his foot and then he steps down into it.
Right.
It's so
you're
trippy
like
to look at. But it's
so are they all walking backwards?
It's not like that Interstellar kind of trippy where it's all these crazy spectacles. Wait. It's just watching a person and then watching the world around them move backward, like birds flying and taking off backward, is so weird.
So wait a minute. So are the actors moving forward, or is all of this shot in reverse?
Right now, what we're seeing is we're seeing him move forward. We are following his perspective. So he's moving backward through time, but we're experiencing it through his linear eyes. I don't think at any point in the movie, I don't think we ever break from the protagonist's point of view. So there is kind of an anchor through all the nuttiness. And after they sort of go through this turnstile, it starts to make a lot more sense. Once we actually start moving backwards, things kind of click into place. Like as a viewer, that was my experience. But after the explosion nearly freezes him, he wakes up in like a cargo container with Kat and Neil. And protagonist is like, Neil, you know way too much about this stuff from the beginning. And he's like, I'll explain it later. He's like, okay, well, why do people from the future...
He is... And then, boom, we found out that Neil has been Colin the whole time, because that's what you've been fucking saying to us this whole time.
Eventually,
Neil's just like, we'll get to that when fucking we record a podcast about it. And they're like, what podcast?
Don't worry about it. But like here, this is
there.
like the big exposition dump where it's like protagonist is trying to understand all the mechanics, and Neil just boils it down as, listen, what's happened. Like, stop thinking so linearly, but you got to kind of move forward with this stuff. So they're currently just moving backward in time. They're just going to live through a week until they can get back to the Freeport in Oslo, which is where the plane thing happened. What Neil also explains is that the people from the future, they're not trying to start World War III. There is information out there that will allow them to invert the entire world and run the Earth backwards in time. And he's like, excuse me, what the fuck?
Same.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, so that's the plan of the future, and we don't really get an answer as to why. But then we just kind of...
That's a big hole.
Not yet. We'll get back to that.
Oh.
So
Oh, fuck me.
I hate me too. So they go back to the Freeport in Oslo. They all have their gas masks on, and they arrive at the plane scene having just crashed and the turbine having exploded. But again, they're coming at it from the future, moving backwards. So we go through this scene in reverse. And it looks weird because they recorded the actors running backwards but played it running forwards so that the inverted people do look awkward in their movements. And it's just like, it's like a little, like a weird feeling. But,
I think I would hate watching this thing.
It is such a, like, visually, this is something that I think needs to be seen. For anyone who cares.
It's sort
about
of like
movies.
fucking that reminds me of, I mean, only tangentially, but like how they do how they used to do a lot of the explosion effects in old kaiju movies was they would like drip ink into a vat of water and film it upside down.
Yep.
That's like sort of like I don't know why, just because of the backwards versus upside down. I know it's not the same.
No,
but
honestly, it is.
Sort of feels like that kind of energy.
That energy.
That's something that they talked about in the behind the scenes. They were like, people are so used to CG that we can use some of these old film tricks and editing tricks. Like, and then when they said that in the behind the scenes, it showed the protagonist driving a car and zoomed out. They just had straight up one of those like background paper reels behind him. Like they're just like playing the background behind him on paper. They had hallways that were painted to look bigger than they are. And it's just like, that is the approach they took to this movie. So they get back to the Freeport, and essentially what happens is we're still following the protagonist. He's wearing his protective gear. He's like, I know what I'm going to do. The turbine explodes, and he uses that as cover to jump into the building, and he's the backwards guy that he was fighting earlier in the movie, and we go through the Freeport fight scene again, backwards from his point of view again.
Wait, but I thought he wasn't allowed to touch himself.
He has protective gear. He was the guy in the Black Army gear the whole time.
Fuck me.
So he goes into the turnstile. He goes...
Wait, he fucking jumps from the exploding turbine? How does that work?
I don't recall exactly how the shot worked, but I am also confused.
Wouldn't he fucking freeze to death or some shit?
I don't think that the explosion propelled him. I don't remember. I'd have to watch it again to catch that detail, but that's a good question.
Isn't that a thing? It
is. I'm saying I don't know what physically caused him to move in. It couldn't have been the explosion, but I think that was the...
No, but... Mm-hmm. No, I'm not saying like what shot him into it, but you said earlier that they shouldn't like explode or some shit because then they would fucking freeze to death or vice versa,
it's
right?
Just that fire cools you down because you're experiencing the inversion of the heat exchange. Right. That's the idea there, but the explosion doesn't actually hit him.
Which I feel like if that's one of the rules, there's lots of other rules that probably should apply.
Probably. I mean,
like similarly.
Yeah,
but,
like Inception, like I'm sure that you can pick it apart and find these little mechanics that don't totally make sense. But anyway, we're almost done with the second act of the movie. So the
protagonist
goes into the turnstile and comes out, like Priya said, it's the same guy. So now he's moving forward in time again, fighting Robert Pattinson a week ago. And we saw Robert Pattinson let this guy get away, and now we know why. It's because he knew it was him the whole time.
Well, then why was he fighting him?
Yep, and then basically then, Robert Pattinson inverted with Cat inverted. They set themselves right, and then they come out forward, and they're all moving forward in time again. And then we take a deep breath.
Wait, but actually, why was he fighting him if they both were on the same fucking team and Robert Pattinson knew that's who he was?
When the fight started, he didn't know. But during the fight, he let the guy get away. What happened is his mask came off screen.
He figured it out.
And then now we see that he knew from that point on.
Okay.
And then, so now we move into the final act of the film. This is probably not going to take as long to summarize because it's not literally looping back on itself. But the protagonist talks to Priya again, and he's like, can you explain to me what the fuck is happening? She's like, yeah, someone in the future figured out how to invert the whole world. The algorithm was written down in this physical thing. Like these MacGuffins are part of a thing that will give them the information, and the future wants it. Sator is trying to get all the MacGuffins, put them together, bury them so that someone in the future can go find them and invert the whole world. We still don't know why he's doing it, but that's what's going on. Priya threatens to kill Kat because Kat knows too much, but the protagonist is like, so we have to go...
Wait, but if he just fucking buries all the shit, wouldn't it just go back in time?
The shit itself is not inverted at the moment. The stuff itself, once buried, is just going to sit there for however many years, and then it's a time capsule. Someone can go dig it up. At this point, the protagonist has also said that the way that Sator's payment works is Sator buries...
So his fucking... Wait. His fucking plan is to just bury it somewhere and hope that none of the people who are fucking opposing him find it?
The idea is that once you bury a thing, you just leave a record of it somewhere that you can't easily find it. And then eventually someone in the future will get it. The way that they describe his payment system, Sator, is that he takes a capsule with the plutonium and he buries it. It sits there for, 500 years, whatever it is. I don't know. And then someone in the future is like, cool, we got it. They fill it with the gold bars in the paperwork. They invert it and they bury it. And it travels back in time, and that's how he gets paid. For him, within 5 minutes of depositing the plutonium, he has a bunch of gold. So
that is the dumbest shit.
That same mechanic is how he's going to deliver this algorithm to the future. And the protagonist remembers a little detail about those cities from Michael Caine.
Wait, I thought the algorithm was from the future, though.
It is from the future, and the lady who made it and killed herself sent it back in time, and now the people from the future are paying Sator to reassemble it. He's their lackey.
How the fuck did they... How on goddamn earth did the people from the future fucking contact Sator to get him to...
Because
they just bury some shit in the ground and invert it and then think, I hope some sleazeball who's okay with fucking over the planet finds this.
So the rationale they use is that the collapse of the Soviet Union is when nuclear material... It was the least secure time in history for nuclear materials. So they were like, we'll bury stuff in these cities, and then someone will find our stuff while cleaning up the cities, and Sator was that guy.
I thought this took place in present day, not the collapse of the Soviet Union.
It does. That's the flashback. The flashback is Sator started all this stuff years ago. We saw a flashback of him with a capsule as a kid, finding this. So he was right place, right time, and now he's running this whole thing. So...
That is bonkers.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of. So Michael Caine had said earlier there was an explosion at an old city called Stalsk 12, which is where Sator grew up. And then the protagonist is like, that was a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. That's where it is. We need to invert. We need to get there, and we need to get the shit before he buries it. A term that they've used is temporal pincer movement. No, it's the idea that they...
But why the actual... Why do they need to get there before he buries it?
Well, the explosion...
Can't they just fucking kill Sator and then go dig up the goddamn city and find it themselves and then fucking burn it or some shit?
Oh, don't worry. Chris Nolan thought of that, too. We're actually going to get to that very shortly. No, so the explosion happened 2 weeks before the beginning of the movie. Or something like that. It's 2 weeks, 1 week, I don't know. So they're like, that's where it's buried. We need to go back in time, conduct an operation with our organization, Tenet, we now know is a big, huge, industrious organization, and they need to go back and they need to get the stuff before the explosion goes off. Otherwise, it's buried. And that sucks.
Before or after?
They just need to, if we're thinking forward in time, they need to get the thing out of there before the explosion. Otherwise, it's buried in the future. We'll get it. Like, it's a big place they're burying it. So they launch what has been called...
Why does the explosion mean it's permanently buried?
Yeah, that's the explosion. It's a big place. The explosion would collapse it on the stuff and it'll be buried, but the future will know exactly where to find it. I don't know, something like that.
So get a goddamn construction team.
Yeah, this is all, like, way too complicated.
Yes, it is. It is easier to digest. Like, when I walked out of the movie the first time, like, I got it. There were some details I missed, but I understood it. And that was even not hearing all the dialogue. So they launch what's called a temporal pincer movement, where one team basically goes through an event back in time, relays the information to the people in the past, and then they go through it forward in time with all the intel.
Oh, fuck.
So
that's so
the
stupid.
climax of the movie is this. 1, Sator has a dead man's trigger on his wrist, so that if he dies, and he's terminally ill, but that's just kind of like a drama thing, not really a plot point. So he's terminally ill or whatever. He has a dead man's trigger, and as soon as he does, it'll send out like an email blast, and anyone from the future will be able to look that up and say, hey, there's the stuff. We got it. So they need to get the thing.
Yeah, but so would anyone in the present, wouldn't
but
they?
the people in the present don't know about it. Only Tenet does, and there's like some limitations to that operation. Now, so Kat is supposed
the future
to...
people can send a goddamn briefcase back in time and have some fucking kid in the Soviet Union get it and or be able to orchestrate their whole fucking plan. I'm pretty sure that the Tenet organization could convince someone in the fucking federal government of any country that needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, maybe. Now, so Kat's job is to go back in time, pretending to be, her old self, and go to the boat where they had that fight where he threatened her and try to distract him because he's planning to like kill himself, I think, because he hates his life and he's going to die anyway. So he's just he's going to, as he says, if I can't have the world, no one else can. It's that same rationale.
Woof-a-doof.
And so she's trying to distract them while the protagonist goes through a 10-minute attack on Stalsk 12 forward in time, and Neil is going through the same attack backward in time. And we get, I'm not going to break this down play by play, but we get a massive battle scene on an enormous set with a bunch of choppers that includes 2, armies running in different orientations of time. Some explosions are forward, some are backward. It is one of the wildest action scenes I've seen in my life. But anyway, Aaron Taylor Johnson and the protagonist go underground to try to get the thing. They see some dead guy on the ground with like a little red tag on him. But then one of Sator's lackeys, who's been in the whole movie, comes in and he starts to he shoots a gun at him and stuff like that. He comes in to attack. In backwards time, Neil sees the guy going in to distract them, so he breaks from the mission, goes underground, inverts himself so he's moving forward in time to help them out. So that's kind of all that's happening during this battle scene. The crazy guy working for Sator, he is putting the algorithm in the thing. The place is about to blow, and the guy on the ground, the dead guy with the red tag, he inverts back up and gets shot in the face. The guy was trying to shoot the protagonist, but the dead guy on the ground was inverted and sacrificed himself in the opposite orientation of time. And that gives them the opportunity to make their move. They go in, very tense thing, yada, yada. Place is about to blow. Oh, no. And a rope comes down from above in the convenient hole in the thing. And it's Neil. When he inverted himself, he got a car, threw a rope down, and he drags them out just as the explosion happens. Very cool. Hooray.
But if Neil throws down a rope, wouldn't it go up?
Well, he's moving forward in time now.
Okay.
And all during this, the rule for Kat is don't kill him until we know it's safe. And then she's like, fuck it. I hate this guy so much. Me from the past is coming back. I can't like do this. So she's like,
What? Sorry, I'm sorry. What is Kat in all of this? Is she just like a bystander who's fucking stuck up in all of this because she's dating Sator or some shit? Or does she actually have a role to play in this operation?
She does. I think that there are criticisms to be made about it, but she is a very fleshed out character in the movie. I'm glossing over it because she doesn't have the same.
Sorry,
utility.
I don't mean like a character role. I mean a role in the operation.
Her role is to make sure
is she
that
a part
Sator
of this organization
doesn't die. No, she's as new to this as the protagonist is. Her job is to make sure Sator doesn't die until they know they've got the algorithm. And then she's like, fuck it, I'm going to kill you anyway. She kills Sator, like jumps the gun a little bit, shoots him.
Literally.
Yeah, and then throws him off the edge of the boat, and it's really grody. And then she jumps off the boat, and it turns out she was the woman she saw jumping off the boat. The trick here is that, and I didn't get this the first time I watched it, the Sator on the boat right now is the Sator we followed back from the future. And he thinks that she is the cat from the present, not the cat from the future. When she pulls the gun, he's like, oh, fuck, it's you. You know what's up. You came back with me. And then she's like, blah, you're dead. So he dies. They get out from the explosion just in time. And Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is like, okay, we got to split up the algorithm. And then we all have to die because none of us can know what it is. But, you know, take your time dying. It doesn't.
What?
Yeah, he's like, we all have to.
Why?
Because if they know about it, then the information is out there. They want to spread these things around so no one can ever rediscover it. Because as Sator reveals before he dies, he's talking on the phone with the protagonist. He's like, why do you think they want to invert the world? Because we didn't leave a world for them. Our oceans rose and our rivers ran dry. The only way for them to live is to go backwards.
Goddamn kidding me.
Nope. That's what that is. So they have to stop the algorithm from ever being assembled. They go their separate ways, but then Neil is like, actually, protagonist, here, take my bit. And then the protagonist is like, what are you talking about? Where are you going to go? He's like, I got some other stuff to do. And the protagonist, it all clicks in his brain. He's like, we've known each other a long time. Neil says, to me, this is the end of a beautiful friendship. And for you, it's just the beginning, yada, yada, yada. Very nice sort of stuff. And then that red tag that we saw on the dead guy falls out. So presumably Neil goes on, lives his life, comes back here and sacrifices himself to save the protagonist and the plan. And
that was the thing that happened at the beginning?
When they went down into the bunker to get the algorithm. Yeah, there was the dead guy there. He had a little red tag on him. He's the one that inverted and got shot in the face and let them do the plan. It tells us that Neil will eventually sacrifice himself for that moment. And essentially what happens now is Neil says, you're only halfway there. The protagonist is the guy who found Tenet in the future. And he goes back to Priya. Priya wants to tie off loose ends, and he's like, here, I thought I was working for you, but it turns out you were working for me. Brat, you're dead, to save Kat's life. And then...
Wait a minute.
Priya's the arms dealer. Priya's the arms dealer.
No, but if our guy founded the organization...
He will found it.
He will found the organization, and then the organization is the one who tells him about it. Where the fuck did it actually come from? Like, we're doing that fucking paradox where, like, if you go back in time... They do pay lip
service to the grandfather paradox. I don't think they technically violate it in the movie. My headcanon and what they imply at the end is that he, the protagonist, founded the organization and recruited Neil. And then Neil ended up recruiting him again in the past. Again, think River Song and the Doctor experiencing each other at different points in their own perspective timelines. So the movie ends
somewhere
with Kat
along
being
here.
safe.
The
last shot of the movie is Kat and her son, a little blonde kid, walking away from the school safe at last.
Okay, so I listened to that whole thing, and I thought I understood about 90% of it until I realized that there is also actual time travel happening in this movie.
The only time travel mechanic is the inversion. There's never acceleration of time. Time moves at a constant rate, quote unquote. But it's just about the direction in which you're experiencing it relative to the rest of the world. That's
so
the
some
only
people
mechanic.
Some people came from the future and just lived life for a while backwards and then uninverted themselves in the present so that they could be going forward.
Exactly.
Like, how do you?
Okay. I think that makes sense.
The way that well, if you die, then you die. That's it.
No, but like
Same.
aging. How does aging work? Do
You
age backwards?
No, from your perspective, you are still moving forward. It's just your relationship to the world that's different. So you would, I mean, it's kind of like the time slippage in Interstellar. Like some people are aging faster than others, but it's still all just
when
relative.
He hires,
everybody's going through it at their own pace.
When he hires Neil in the future, Neil is younger, right?
Yes.
Than the Neil we've experienced.
Yeah, we see Neil at the end of his life and the protagonist at the beginning. So essentially, the movie is more or less kind of told backwards.
It's like they're not fucking dying of aging because it's not that far into the future, right?
That's my guess. Is it can't be that far because these people are.
It's just
around.
By the end of our protagonist's life.
Yeah, exactly. So
who still does not have a goddamn name?
Nope.
Just so we're clear.
And
he's just the protagonist.
It comes from a line in the movie, and that's why. Like I left out a lot of details, and that still took like over an hour. But that's Tenet. It is a time-bending fucking thingamadoo.
Holy moly.
Yeah, and here's the thing. As not fun as it is to listen to me rant.
Editor's note. It's even
this
worse
movie has
when you
problems.
gotta edit the rest.
It is so fun to. It is so fun to watch. It is so. I told you that before that middle colorful turnstile thing. My girlfriend was like, "This movie is terrible. I hope you know that." By the end, at that last fight scene, she was like bolted upright, like rubbing her head, watching the TV, shushing me, which is very backwards to what normally happens. And she was like.
Yeah,
and she was like,
I just
that movie
can't
was
imagine
really,
a
really
scenario
good.
in which can't imagine a scenario in which where anyone would want to fucking shush Colin.
Yeah, no.
Well, what? That's
very Tenet backwards to reality.
That's the comment there is because I'm always shushing people at movies, and usually I'm the one policing the sound. And she was like, "Shut the fuck up, watching the movie," and I'm like, "Okay," but it is.
Glad someone
wild.
said it.
Any questions?
Oh man,
So many.
Gosh,
Can you answer them? Probably not.
I'll try my
Go
best
for
if
it.
we've got a few of them. Because for rating, Jeff, if you don't mind, I have an idea for ratings. If you want to ask some questions before we get in there.
you want us to record the whole thing backwards?
No, please, no, my brain.
If you got any questions, hit me with them. I'll do my best.
Well, Colin, you have to give us the answers to the questions first,
Yeah.
and then we'll ask the questions.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Robert Pattinson is kind of subversively
Like
attractive
Jeopardy.
in this movie, actually.
Thank you.
Is
that was
Robert
my
Pattinson
question.
at all attractive in this movie, subversive or otherwise?
No.
Now, please, in editing, flip that the other way.
Editor's note. No, I will not.
Um,
I just want this to
wait.
end.
So, how long of a time span does this movie cross?
So it's very globetrotting. We start the movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we start the movie with the protagonist at the Kiev thing. 2 days later, he's inducted into Tenet. Couple days before Oslo, and then a week before the next turnstile, and then they double back. So we go like maybe 2 weeks into the future, and then we double back to like 2 weeks into the past. So it's like it's scattered over a month at different points, is my estimate.
Okay, but then when he found the thing, like that amount of time, how much time passed there?
That was 2 weeks or so before the start of the movie. I don't remember the exact number, but that was
Wait,
event happened before the beginning of the movie.
No.
Wait a
when
fucking second.
was the company founded? Tenet. When was
Tenet
that founded?
was founded in the future, and they sent a bunch of inverted people back in time to conduct these
How
operations.
long
in the past.
future?
It doesn't answer that question.
Okay. Now here's my thing though, right? Okay, it can't possibly be that far into the future
Agreed.
if we take into consideration A, normal aging of human beings,
Yes.
but B, if our guy is the guy who founds it, and then up until the point that it is founded or whatever, like he is still using this technology, wouldn't he be twice his age or triple his age?
Potentially, but there's also
going...
there's another thing to consider, is that he could have founded Tenet, I don't know, 5 years after the events of the film, and then Tenet grows as it goes forward in time over generations and could potentially send generations backward in time. What we do see in the movie that I didn't touch on is like when they're going backwards in time because they're inverted, they can't breathe normal air. They have like whole ships and tankers and like tents and setups that are airtight. Like they have infrastructure to support these people being inverted.
Why can't they breathe normal air?
It's one of those rules that after the turnstile, one of the ladies recites.
Oh, what? Like they have to fucking breathe CO2 because it's going backwards.
That's why Sator had a gas mask.
That is the stupidest fucking shit.
No. They don't breathe CO2. No. They breathe inverted oxygen, inverted air. They can't breathe air that is opposite.
This is my hang up.
Okay.
This is where a lot of my confusion is rooted, I think. Probably not. There's probably more. The dude is sending the blueprints of all of this stuff to the future because they've destroyed the world so much that they have to live backwards in order to live on Earth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Earth get that fucked up in 5 years?
Probably not 5 years. Again, that's why, like, the ambiguity of how far in the future this war is starting is, I think, an interesting thing.
Wait.
But that's why
you
it
don't
gets
know how far in
confusing, is
the
because
place...
you're living backwards. So all of the people that are being utilized are aging.
The line that was used to describe it is like, these people that want to invert the world, they want to live backwards in time because they don't want to go further into their future. They see it as bleak and unsurvivable.
Yes.
So hold on, I'm not done. So the phrase that's used is to them, they want to live backwards, but living backwards your entire life, to just live your life in a world that's opposite to you, it's like pissing into the wind. It's difficult. You can't do it. So they want to invert the whole world so that they can just live normally backwards.
But okay, I'll fucking deconstruct that in a second.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm saying that's the explanation.
No. I get it. But Jocelyn, the thing that you're hung up on, I think that the future where he founds Tenet, right? And the future where these people are where this plot is coming from are not the same future, right? Like, that's much further into the future than the founding of the organization. Am I wrong about that?
It's never stated explicitly, but that is my belief. That's my read on the movie. I think that Tenet is multi-generational in both directions.
Oh,
fucking second. Okay, now I want to fucking deconstruct that goddamn fucking implication of an ending there. Because if they invert the entire world, then are they inverting the entire world, including themselves or not including themselves?
It doesn't really say. It just says that once they do it, if everyone on Earth will be inverted, and therefore there will be no future. And the people moving forward in time, I mean, think about it in the turnstile. Once you invert, you don't continue in that direction. It's almost like it ends, depending on your perspective. So that's the reasoning. As far as the scope of it, it doesn't define it.
Because if they inverted the whole world, including themselves, so everything was just moving backwards now, then even relative to them, the Earth would be getting worse. Yes.
Which is why I also
So that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I don't, and I think that's part of why they leave it ambiguous. Like a lot of Chris Nolan movies, you can pull the threads and it'll kind of come apart. But I gotta say, watching it...
That's a pretty big thread.
It's a big thread.
Like, this is the thing. And this is what I thought when I saw the trailers and I saw the original, because they showed that opening clip in theaters at one point. Yeah. So it looked like it would be beautifully visually editing, like, amazing. Like, like the visuals of this have to be great. But God, does this plot sound dumb.
It's I will say it is, everybody making the movie was, like I said earlier, they were like, this script makes no goddamn sense. I read it 5 times and I still don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Editor's note. That just sounds like somebody.
And here,
fucked
I guess
up
at this
their
point, it might be
job.
good to pivot into the ratings, if that's okay with you, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's.
I mean, we've already done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We already did the ratings
Yeah,
at the
Chowder,
beginning
could
of
you
the
edit
episode.
this to be after? Thank you. So for the ratings, what should the scale be? 1 to 10 what? I'll explain
Oh,
We
more in a
already
second.
know what the scale is. Sorry.
So on one, as we already discussed, on 1 to 10 inverted bullets, that thing that
So
we
it's
came to
gotta
a
be-
consensus of already.
So what am I rating?
I mean,
So that
I'm all right with inverted bullets, but 10 to 1, it's got to be, right? Not 1 to 10.
okay, I'm with you, 10 to 1. So I guess what I want to ask from you guys is, based on my haphazard description of the film, what is your interest in still seeing it? Not listening to the
Oh, I
story.
absolutely have to go fucking watch this for myself to see if it's as fucking whack and shit as you make it sound, or if it's on you, or if it's worse. I don't know.
I feel like
Go ahead.
Go for it, Jocelyn.
it's still 5. Because that's the simplest answer for me that makes sense. Because
Oh,
it's
man.
the same either way.
In that 10-minute fight scene at the end where the people are going backward and forward in time, there's this really cool shot right at the 5-minute mark where their synced watches meet. Like there's a building that's collapsed, and then the building like reverses, and the bottom of the building that was exploded reassembles, and then the top explodes because they coordinated it from different timelines, and it's such a cool shot. It's such a crazy cool shot that they did practically. Ugh. Anyway.
See, like,
Yeah, see,
I wanna watch it
I
for
understand
that
what you're
stuff.
saying.
Yeah.
I have no desire to watch it otherwise, though.
Well, then you won't care about the
I'm-
audio problems, will you?
No, I will.
I'm interested. I think I'm interested in both aspects of it. I definitely want to see the visual aspects of it, and I also want to fucking deconstruct the plot to see if I can make a little bit more sense of it, seeing it
Yep.
for myself. Because that sounds wild as shit.
It's wild.
It's I do not like that that the fucking the best solution he could think of was to make it a fucking environmental thing. Not that I'm not all for
Yeah.
environmentalism.
It
and
did feel
but
like a
that
bit of a
seems like
retread
just
of
such a
Interstellar.
cheesy. It sort of feels like, I don't know, I can't remember what the movie is called. It's with Nicolas Cage, and it's like he gets he like finds a list of numbers that like predict the future or some shit.
Oh!
You know what I'm talking
Knowing.
about?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yep.
Knowing, yeah. It reminds me of that
It
movie
does.
in that, like, I'm watching the whole movie and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I heard it was terrible, and then I get to the ending of the movie and then it fucking turns into a goddamn Adam and Eve fucking metaphor, and I'm like, oh, that ruins the whole fucking thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good movie with a bad ending. That has retroactively made the rest of what I just watched fucking garbage. And that's what I'm sort of, like, curious about with this
I
movie.
honestly don't think it will, because the moment where he discusses, like, this is why the future sucks, is like, that is like maybe 2 lines, and the rest of it is really just about the fact that he's an insane villain doing insane villain things, and he needs to be stopped.
Sure.
That's why the war.
Yeah, but he's not the...
No, but he's the one willing to.
He's
he
not
knows
the driving force,
exactly.
he's just
He
the-
knows
yeah.
exactly what he's doing, and without him, it couldn't be done. He's so selfish that he uses his own death as a reason to do that. And this is not me defending the movie. This is me trying to communicate that the movie doesn't put the emphasis on that environmental thing. It definitely puts the emphasis on Sator and his motivations.
Sure.
Question.
But what I'm saying is, by taking emphasis off of that wild ass fuck when ending, then it's just like, oh, are we just fucking letting that slide? Because that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably that's a problem for the sequel that will never happen because it's the Chris Nolan movie. What was your question?
I think you mean prequel.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
I did.
obviously a prequel. You said it's available. Do I have to pay to
like,
watch
wait.
it right now?
It's $20.
Ew, never mind.
Oof.
Let me know when it's on HBO Max.
Judging by what Christopher Nolan has been saying lately, that ain't gonna happen.
I have a question. This is not a movie question. So like, when they're doing these home releases and they're making them that expensive, it's because they're, it's compared to like
that's also
going to a movie theater with the family.
It's not renting; it's buying the movie. It's it's $20 to buy the movie.
I see.
So
gotcha.
With our backwards rating scale, Jocelyn, you're at a 5, and Jeff, you're at a 1 for rating your interest in seeing the movie.
Because I really want to see it, so it's a 1. I think that's where we're landing. Yeah.
So I want to take this opportunity because I've explained the movie. I still have not discussed my feelings with it with anyone for sake of spoiling it, and this has unburdened me. So
yeah, go for it. I'd like to hear your rating. You're gonna have to clarify whether that rating is backwards or forwards.
Yes.
I love the Dark Knight movies. I love Inception. I love Interstellar. I love Dunkirk. I enjoy all of them a lot. Inception has a special place in my heart. I don't because I saw it in theaters and it was just like a really engaging experience. Seeing Tenet in theaters, I was lucky enough to be able to do it safely. I was the only one in the theater, and that was great. And I've tested negative since then. So you can't. Seeing Tenet in IMAX is like the best movie-going experience I think I've ever had. The simplicity, yet the expansiveness of the visual effects, the fact that everything is practical and shot in IMAX, it is so much fun to watch. But I think if I had to describe it, I would describe the movie as Inception's angry big brother. It is... It is harsher, it is faster, it is more brutal, it is less joyful, and it is that same kind of like, here's a world with one interesting mechanic twisting it, but I feel like that mechanic overrides some of the narrative qualities. Like at the end of the movie, it tells us these guys were best friends the whole time. I'm like, cool, I just watched a movie about 2 guys that aren't best friends, and you told me that's not what I watched. Like, the emotion...
Yeah.
You don't get the emotion the first time through the movie, and it felt kind of cold. I had like conflicted feelings because it was such a feast. It is so much fun to watch, but I think that some of the human elements are lacking because, I mean, you take the idea of a spy movie and you add this one mechanic. Yeah. If that mechanic is more important than the spy movie, well, you don't have a spy movie anymore. You have something else. I mean, that's what we've got.
That's
and
like
what we've got is good.
That's like the fucking Memento vibe, right? It's like if you re-edited Memento to play it chronologically, then the plot is just like so bare bones simple.
Here's the thing: this is not even a bare bones plot. If you played it all linearly, it wouldn't make sense if you did that. But also, there are so many moving parts. There are characters and subplots that I like left out just to try to get through it in like an hour. But that said, I do
mentioned Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I'm like, wait, Aaron Taylor Johnson's in this movie?
Yep, I spent the entire last hour of the movie being like, is that Aaron Taylor Johnson? What the fuck? What's up with that beard?
Wait, is Aaron Taylor Johnson is the guy from fucking? He's Kick-Ass.
Okay. So if I had to rate it, here's the thing: watching it's a movie that also demands a second viewing. Obviously, because of where so many of the reveals come in. And having watched it twice now, I definitely feel better about it. Especially with subtitles, I picked up on little human moments and jokes and some of that warmth that I was missing on my first run-through, partly because of subtitles, but also partly just because I was primed for it. I wasn't so focused on decoding the movie that I was able to enjoy the characters. And let me tell you, John David Washington... Kate Dubicki and Robert Pattinson are charismatic, enjoyable actors to watch. So on second run through, I definitely feel better about it. In terms of like the story I like more, I'll put it below Inception and Interstellar, but I have never seen a movie like this. And no matter what you think of this story, I think it should be seen. Going backwards, I'm probably gonna give this... what would it be? 8 out of 10, which would be 2?
So you're giving it a 2?
Yeah, 2. I can't even do this math.
Wait, are you giving it an 8 or are you giving it a 2?
I'm giving it a 2 in our inverted scale, which means I would rate it an 8 out of 10 in a regular timeline.
In a normal scale.
So I think
so you're giving it a 2 like I gave it a 1.
A 2 like you gave it a 1.
Okay.
So I feel so much catharsis right now that I just got to say all the things I said. Oh my fucking gosh. That's
disagree.
Tenet, baby.
Jesus fuck.
If you
I
have
have to
not
say-
seen the movie,
That sounds like a wild
yeah,
ride.
Joss.
I will probably, when I do eventually watch it, I will actually probably enjoy it because I'm not going to be sitting there getting annoyed
Yeah.
with
Well, that's
some of the dumber things because I already know about them, so I can just watch it for.
that comes back to my primer of like, if it drags in the middle, like bear with it. It's because the middle is technically not kind of the middle from a narrative structure sort of way. It's
Yeah,
it's
but
so
also
weird.
in the same way, if it drags in the middle, get ready. You're gonna have to watch that same middle the same
But here's the
again
thing:
in the opposite
it
order.
doesn't drag because of like pacing or structure issues. By drag, I'm
I
using
know.
the word drag because that's what it feels like in other movies. In this movie, it's just like
Right.
you're in the thick of it and don't fully understand it, and then the lock turns, and then you get it.
Right.
Like I also my viewing experience was a little weird because in the beginning, that fight scene where he's fighting himself but you don't know it yet, as soon as Robert Pattinson like pulled the mask off and let him get away, I'm like, that's fucking John David Washington. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah.
So like I was just like waiting for that the whole time. But it is a fucking movie. It is one you should see even if you have very mixed feelings about it like I do. Watch it with subtitles.
Oh. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's gonna just fucking start our episode.
I need a cigarette
really.
after that.
Thank you for listening to the Common Geeking Program, or about to be listening to the Common Geeking Program. Again, I will be your host, Jeff Leavitt, and you can find me on Instagram at. You've already found
your
me on
Instagram is things that already exist with a dot between each word.
Things I wish existed with a dot between each word. You've already watched all my fucking Transformers YouTube reviews at Alchemist Prime Reviews. Where have they found you two?
Go first, Colin.
I did.
You mean go after?
Oh, God damn it!
Yeah.
God. You can find me on
We'll
Twitter.
find you. Did never mind. Sorry.
they found me on Twitter. I don't remember what my thing is. Hold on. I think it's JOC_Barkenhagen. Yeah, that's what it is. Find me there.
I'll put it in the show notes because I've been doing show notes lately.
Yeah. I don't tweet a lot. If I do, it's about animation. So yeah. Find me there, I guess.
I have been already, will be, and was yesterday, tomorrow, Colin. And I'm exhausted from this. I'm very happy with it. You can/will find me at commongeekingprogram.com, at dicepopuli.com, at SonicColinK online, or playing Destiny, because that's what I'm about to be doing. Or have done. I did actually play Destiny before this, so that's kind of good.
And our next episode will air on the third Friday in November. It is going to be about shit. What was last month's episode?
I was like, wait, did you say November?
I've corrupted
I
you!
did say November.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
What was it about? I can't even remember.
Last night.
You fucking will hear it. Yeah, we haven't recorded it yet, so you'll never know until it comes out, right? We don't know.
Hey, man, what's happened?
Last month's episode aired in the third Friday of January. So if you want to go back and listen to that,
Your commitment to this bit is admirable, but I'm going to kill you.
I love it. I love the headache it gives me.
That's how I feel about Tenet. Ugh.
Editor's note: for quick clarification, the next episode will air on January the 15th.
all right.
Anyway, yeah, so,
Episode next to talk, will, and everything, sharing, subscribing, listening for thanks anyways.
The Common Geeking Program is hosted by Jeff Leavitt, joined this episode by Colin Ketchen and Jocelyn Barkenhagen. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt and features original music by Colin Ketchen. This episode was edited by me, Taeemul Chowdhury. We'd love for you to stay engaged with us on social media at Geeking Program or by using hashtag CGP. If you want to know more about us and all of our other projects, head to CommonGeekingProgram.com. This episode was brought to you by making editors' comments by going backwards through the timeline. Anyways, that'll be it for today, so stay in touch, stay tuned, and thank you. Alright, let's get this started.